Today on Rob's Garage, we're changing the oil on my 2003 Yamaha R6. Same procedure applies to all third generation R6s, and from what I can gather, looking at some of the service manuals of other generations, I think it's a pretty similar process for every R6 from 99 to 2020, but I'm no expert, so make sure you do your homework. Meanwhile, follow along, I'll show you just how quick and easy it is to change your own oil. Welcome back to Rob's Garage. I'm Rob. This here's my garage where we maintain, repair, upgrade, and track the likes of BMWs, Corvettes, Ferraris, Mini Coopers, Range Rovers, and even Japanese motorcycles. Here today, we're working on my daily rider. It's a 2003 Yamaha R6. I bought it in 2006, shortly after Rossi started riding for Yamaha in the MotoGP World Championship. It's not the most powerful. I mean, it's a 600cc, but it just never gets old. I love riding this thing. Here's all the tools and supplies you're going to need to do the oil change. Let's start with the oil. If you ask 10 riders what oil to use, you're going to get 10 different responses. But generally speaking, this 10W40 from Castrol, Power One they call it, has worked well for me for a long time. And if you look in the owner's manual, there's different weights you can use, but 10W40 seems to work for most climates. It's a decent oil, and I've not had any issues with it. I think it's the same lubrication as the Yamalube that the factory recommends. Get yourself one of these K&N KN303 filters, H4 hex socket, and a 10 millimeter, as well as a 17 millimeter with a torque wrench. A low profile drain pan. Don't get anything too tall, but it's got to be deep enough to collect the oil. You're going to drain about 2.5, 3 quarts maybe, and then a funnel to fill up the oil. Now, before I start the oil change, you want to make sure that the engine has been properly warmed up. I think I let this thing warm up for about 10-15 minutes and then shut it off and let it cool down a little bit so the oil is not too hot. We start on the left-hand side by removing this lower fairing here. There's 1, 2, get in there. Oh, it looks like I'm missing my third bolt, but there's 4, 5, 6 underneath, and I believe 7 right here. Bolts that you'll remove using your H4 Allen head socket. Next, you're going to remove the bolt on the top fairing. So I've already loosened this one up. There's one there, and then there is one here. So you loosen those, and then with that, you'll be able to pull this top fairing away. And then the bottom one will start to come out just like that. I don't like to let the fairing just hang there, so you'll see in the back there's some notches. What you do is you just kind of slide that to open the bigger part of the notch here, and you'll be able to pop it right out. Using your H4 socket again, or Allen key, whatever you're using, we're going to remove the coolant reservoir here. Now, you might not need to do this. You might be able to get to the filter just fine, but I like to get the coolant reservoir here out of the way. So pull these hoses through to access a pair of 10 millimeter bolts.
1, 2.
Gives a little more access to the oil filter right here. With the fairing removed, we can access the drain plug pretty easily. Back here, make sure you got your oil pan in position, ready to go. Takes a 17 millimeter socket. It will come shooting out. 3, 2, one. Over here on the right hand side where you fill up the oil, I always remove the oil filler cap and just give it some air come in, and I think it helps drain the oil a little faster, but I could just be superstitious. As the oil drips to a finish here, I kind of rotate the oil pan over so that it's still positioned underneath the drain plug, but also where I can access, whoops, there's dripping, also where I can access the oil filter here. So I already broke it loose with a 17mm socket, same socket you'll use for the drain plug itself. And that's because I'm using these K&N 303 filters. They've done great for me over the years, and it just makes it really easy to get the right torque to make sure that there's no leak. So there you go. Once you've broken it loose, you can just kind of take the filter off by hand. All right, we'll get the surface here properly cleaned off, devoid of any oil. Then we'll put the drain plug back on. Drain plug is torqued to 31 foot-pounds. Make sure your filter matting surface here is free of any oil or debris. Just wipe it down with a paper towel. We're going to put a little bit of fresh oil along the surface here just to help provide a proper seal. Helps prevent leaks. And then we'll hand tighten it on and then torque it to 12 foot-pounds of torque. Back on the right hand side, we're going to take a large funnel, and I start with 2.5 quarts. Run the motor, check for leaks, and then let it cool down. We'll then check the level and top it off. So you're usually going to use about 2 3/4 quarts. Call it good. Well, now that we've got it filled up with 2.5 quarts, let's fire up the motor, let it run for a few minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes, long enough to get the fans running, I'd suggest. While it's running, we want to check for leaks down here. Make sure the drain bolt, the oil filter are not leaking. No leaks on the drain bolt. Looking good on the oil filter. Now with the engine cooled, we're going to check the dipstick level and assess how much oil we need to add. It's got markings here, min. Let's see, your min and your max, basically. You want it in this rough section here, so we're going to put it back on. You don't need to screw it all the way down. Just push it in, pull it out, and boy, we look pretty dry. So let's add another 1/4 quart. Let's see what we get here. Looks a little bit better there. Within the lines. Still a little bit lower than I would like, but we're within tolerance. Should be good. But if you found this beneficial, please hit the like button. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel. If you've got any requests for future videos on maintenance, repair, upgrades, or whatnot for Yamahas, Suzukis, Corvettes, Ferraris, BMWs, Range Rovers, add something in the comments. Give me some ideas for future videos to make. I am not a certified mechanic, so full disclaimer, I'm just an average Joe just doing this out of his garage, and I like to share my lessons learned, the things I've done over the years with all you guys out there, hoping that benefit somebody. So if you find it interesting, then follow along, and I'll see you guys on down the road.